Welcome to the Unstoppable Force podcast. I'm Guy,
And I'm Rob.
and welcome back to another week. Um, this week we're going to be talking about the CES, which just concluded this recent Friday.
Last week, yep.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what that is, I don't know why you clicked this video, but
Yeah,
it's the Consumer Electronics Show.
and it's basically like a showcasing by all the big tech companies of some of their like concepts and new tech that could just be hitting the market now, and like a kind of a range of different things. It's like a big show of different technology.
Yeah, it's like a big show floor for the most part with demos
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of concepts that of things that aren't necessarily out or coming out this year, maybe even further down the line. Definitely there are things that are out that are released, like even they announce and release it like this past week.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's what we're gonna see, and we also get to see trends starting and being set, and like what a lot of companies are starting to do with their tech.
Yeah, and basically, like, the one thing that I guess ties all the tech together in the name is the consumer part.
Yeah,
So the purpose of these different products are to be sold to consumers. I think that's like the one thing that they all have in common. Um, but the one of the main things that they covered was going to be like a lot of the different tech companies like Lenovo and like Asus and Samsung and like the big computer companies, tablet companies. We're seeing a lot of adoption of dual screens.
yeah, we and the and foldable screens,
Mm-hmm.
and we want the real estate. Once we realized that we started it on, like I guess even you can say like PCs when we have two screens, we took
Yeah.
that and we're like, all right, well we have all this real estate. And then with phones, we want that to happen. That's like a more recent trend that's starting. So the most obvious thing to do is, I guess, laptops, because you have a
Mm-hmm.
whole second spot for a screen where the keyboard is. Theoretically, you can just make it like have a screen and just make it into a keyboard. Just make a hinge, make it two screens right there. And
Yeah.
but like with Lenovo, I know they had their foldable PC that they're showing that's one whole screen that folds in half. And then in addition, you can put the keyboard on top of it, onto the bottom part of the screen, and use it as a physical keyboard.
Yeah, basically, like the laptop became a screen.
Yeah,
It's just like a tablet that you put a uh, a keyboard on top of, and
right.
then pretend it's like a laptop, which is fascinating because I guess it is at the end of the day, it is a laptop. It's still running, Windows, but this idea of like bringing it even closer to just like screen technology, like we're turning everything into screens that we can.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously we're trying to fold everything we can now.
Make it smaller. We want the best to both worlds. We want the largest real estate of screens as possible, while also
Mhm.
making it the smallest device possible.
Exactly. I mean, even like Asus came out with their ZenBook Pro Duo over this year, and that has like a whole second screen that's like above the keyboard, which was an interesting design.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like even bringing it further, and it'll be interesting to see what else becomes foldable and how far they're going to take the foldable technology.
Oh, yeah.
And they're also like making they showcased the newest Chromebook by Samsung,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and that is going to be like really powerful.
It's the most powerful Chromebook and most expensive at like $1,000.
The question is though, if it's just a Chromebook and it's not supposed to be like for really heavy sort of activity, is it worth it to make one that powerful?
Well, if it's like super thin, maybe that's the point. It's like it's so thin, so portable,
Mhm.
but it's also the most like powerful.
It's
Maybe
also
it's storage along with like processing, so you can have a lot of all your Chrome tabs open that you
mhm.
want, like thousands of them. Now it won't crash.
It could also be a bit of like a luxury item in that if you've got a little extra money lying around and you're buying a Chromebook, like a small little
Mm,
portable notebook, it probably feels a lot more fun to get one that's like really
mhm.
nice.
Yeah, I mean, even I would rather like I don't know. I feel like with these like two screen things, we should the whole tablet thing is gonna be folding in half. So like that's kind of what a Chromebook. Just make it like a big enough like Android tablet that folds in half that has two screens, and then that's like a luxury product.
hmm And then there was more phone stuff as well.
Yeah, we saw more foldable phone stuff with TCL has their folding smartphone, which is going to be $500, which is undercuts all of the other competitors right now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Samsung's is 2,000, right?
Yeah, and even the Razr, Motorola Razr that's gonna come out is gonna be up with over the $1,000 or $1,500.
And that one isn't even that impressive in terms of the actual specs of the phone itself, which were kind of lacking.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they said that or I guess they announced that they have like over 30 models of foldable phones in the works. TCL, yeah. And it's weird too because I think a lot of people don't actually know who TCL is.
No, not at all.
And I didn't even know who they were until recently this year, when I bought a TV from them, and I'm like, who the hell is TCL? It's kind of weird. There's like this new TV manufacturer, randomly that I do not remember growing up. That's apparently great, and it turns out that it's a Chinese company that only recently started selling in the U.S. I think this year, right?
Yes.
Or
2019.
We'd have to double check it, but it was either this year or last year.
Yeah. Yeah, but also like they just started selling. So like we saw a CES that like saw like at some point they had like a sound bar, and now they have their phones and TVs. So they have a whole bunch of tech that we just didn't know about because it didn't come to the U.S.
And it's fascinating that it kind of just entered our Targets and our Walmarts and our, they went up on Amazon and on Best Buy and Walmart, and no one even questioned it. No one was like, oh, TCL. Oh, that kind of sounds like a company that I might have just forgotten about.
Yo, is this HTC? No, I don't remember.
Exactly. But I bet you most people don't even know who they are. And it's I think it's interesting that it's a $500 phone and it's coming from China, and there's like a bit of like an ethics question there. It's like, how do you make a phone like that at such a low price?
Well, yeah, like when we're so concerned with like Huawei, like I know it's a separate thing with like ethics thing, but like everybody's so focused on them, and then we have this company that comes in almost out of nowhere. There's nothing talked about with it.
And then they're even, well, I guess like one downside of the smartphone, at least that they showcased, was that it is only on the inside that there's a phone. So it's essentially like a tablet that just closes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the outside screen.
So it's just like a clamshell without the outside. And I don't know, it's like mixed because like it's better for like not scratching screens, right? I guess if we're going to do it that way. Like if there's no screen on the outside, then you're not going to scratch it.
Right.
It's gonna suck how you hold it up to your like head open.
Yeah, I guess it would have to at least hold within your hand unfolded.
Yeah.
I guess you'd probably learn to like hold it from the bottom.
Yeah.
Or like from a corner.
I feel like
it'd be weird though.
I feel like
uncomfortable.
With not like an abundance, but I think an increased popularity in Bluetooth. We are gonna move to like so many people having Bluetooth, not worrying about holding their phone up and talking anyway. So I'm not saying this isn't a problem right away, but it's something that is like it's gonna be inconvenience. But if it's $500 and it's way cheaper and it works, then that's something you have to.
Right, they don't need the third screen if they can make it $500.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like it can be a phone and a tablet. Tablets aren't bad. And if I can fold a tablet in half and put it in my pocket, that's great.
Exactly.
So it's like a $500 foldable tablet.
I feel like it's just a marketing lie at that point. Because you can have a tablet that has like 4G, still a tablet.
That's true.
So then if you take the tablet and fold it and still has 4G, it's still a tablet. But
then at that point, can't you get a tablet for cheaper? Isn't even like an iPad pretty cheap?
Yeah, but,
like $300.
Yeah, but this is one you can put in your pocket. But also no, it's not that cheap if you get the like 4G model.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, but it's not like a monthly thing. Like it doesn't actually raise the value of like the hardware.
It does.
Only like maybe.
Yes, it does. Like if you get Fitbit that has 4G or the Apple Watch has 4G, there's a price bump.
How much is it out of curiosity?
Maybe like $100. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems like an upsell.
Maybe 50, 100. I don't know exactly, but something like that.
I mean, I feel like it's probably just some sort of small piece of hardware that can connect to a cell phone signal, and that's it.
Maybe.
and then like you just hook it up to your cell phone plan, and you maybe have to pay a little bit extra every month for the
Yeah, I
extra
don't know.
device. But
I don't know. So there was an interesting piece of tech for phones that we saw, right? For
which one?
OnePlus had teamed up with McLaren just like to showcase
Oh,
their
this
phone,
thing, yeah.
and they have electrochromatic glass on the rear. What it does is it covers where the camera is to, so when it's on, like electric, if it's like the powered on the glass, it
Mm-hmm.
blacks it out so that if the rest of the back of the phone is black glass, the part where the camera is blacked out, so it seems like there's no cameras. And this obviously comes
Mm-hmm.
up because we see like the iPhones that have 3 or 4 cameras on the back, so it's getting all polka dotty. So the way to hide this is you have no camera bump and you just put glass over it, and then you make it electrochromatic and black it out. The downside is obviously this takes power to do, with using the phone
Mm-hmm.
power, but and the technology is expensive. So I don't really see a big adaptation coming soon.
It's essentially, yeah, it's to make your phone look pretty.
Yeah, and like when it comes to like, are you really gonna like? Obviously, the people that can afford the higher end stuff, sure, they're gonna pay
Mm-hmm.
for it. But anybody that like really cares to have like all the versions of your camera and just use it, you're fine. You don't really care what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can see it possibly becoming more prevalent if the cameras get even bigger, or if they
Mm.
get like, really weird, or if utility. I mean, I like the idea that they might go for utility over visual, knowing that there might be like could make themselves, like Apple could make their own back that like
Mm.
plate to put over with the monochromatic
Mm.
glass on it, and it'd be interesting to see if it ends up catching on as like something that companies use as a some sort of cosmetic to cover up the cameras,
Yeah,
because
I almost would.
cameras aren't going
I would
away.
almost prefer a case on the phone that kind of slide. They like have a slide. And the slides covers
That would be
the
cool.
cameras and slides down and take it, and because at that point you want to protect all your cameras.
Hmm. I mean, could you make it so that even that is got the monochromatic glass, but is also a case?
Yeah, I mean, I would just do it to just like be part of the case, so it's all the same color, and then you slide
Hmm.
it, and then that's it. I mean, that can be made right now.
That's true. Maybe there is a market for that sort of product at a cheaper level, because I'm sure that
Mhm.
this is not cheap
No,
in the
exactly,
slightest.
exactly.
This is a luxury item for sure.
And then one more like phone thing that I'm actually sort of pretty excited that's happening, even though it's kind of old tech. It's Samsung's bringing a Galaxy X Cover Pro, and what it does is it has a modular battery, so now we can take our batteries out and replace them if they
Ooh.
go bad, or upgrade them if we want a more powerful battery. Top of that, it's like an active phone. It's supposed to withstand like high altitudes and water and all this other stuff. So we're getting an actual like more consumer friendly than not being able to remove your battery and getting screwed
Hmm.
over. That's what I've wanted. If I want to shut my phone down, I shut it down. Also for privacy purposes, if you're that type of person that really cares about sort of tracking or this or that, you can't
Yeah.
turn your phone off. You can't disconnect the power that's going to your camera or your microphone.
But if you unplug that battery,
Exactly, then that can
hmm
happen for you. So it's I just for like a privacy standpoint, that was really cool to me.
I think you mentioned it when you were talking, but I think that being able to have the privacy, having the ability to have it be a consumer friendly thing that's tailored to a specific user's experience. I think that is like the future of a lot of these big tech companies, especially like Samsung and even like Apple. I think Apple's gonna have to cave in as much as they hate it.
Mm.
Because we're seeing everything go towards consumer friendly. The more consumer friendly an item is, the better it sells, as long as it's also still functional and works well. It comes at the cost of I think a bit of revenue,
Mm.
but it generates more sales, and it generates more consumer um
Reputation, I would say.
reputation,
Right.
exactly. So they're more likely to buy you the second time around.
Mm.
They're going to continue to buy from that company who that they have has proven to them that they have their interest in mind.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's going to be a big pull.
I think as you say that, that kind of leads me to our next thing to talk about, where a lot of videos I saw on CES about smart home tech kind of brought uh this privacy thing into mind. So
Oh yeah.
so there was like one piece I saw was this hub for your home that connects all your cameras, that it could be third party cameras, into this one device that is local storage. So now you don't have to pay Ring monthly to access
Mhm.
your videos, and it's not on the cloud. It's local, it's private, and now you can keep all your video camera footage in house and offline. And I think a lot of introduction of third party of cameras and even locks for the house, smart locks, and all these different things, that's going to help us like fight the like affect essential monopoly that Google and Amazon have on the smart home.
Yeah.
So our Nest and our Ring that are all tied to Google or Alexa, like we need to fight that, and that third parties are doing that so that everything is offline or not subscription based or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that third party stuff gets uh, bigger and more available. I think on like the hardware side, it's not difficult for a smaller company to compete.
Hmm.
It's more the software side.
Right.
So I think for items like cameras and smart home stuff beyond like the actual like AI side, like if it's just like whether or not a lock can open up or close like your front door,
Hmm.
that's something that's not really difficult to make at a cheaper price and like have it be like not Google Home's,
Hmm.
door lock and Google Home's um, cameras and like Google
Hmm.
Home's like this and that. Like having the ability to have more third party companies that are competing, it would be really nice.
Yeah.
But just in general, I think the smart home area shined quite brightly at CES. There's a lot of different new things. A lot of it's just stuff getting cheaper as well. I didn't even know that some of this stuff had come out until I had watched CES, and it's interesting because I immediately I'm thinking like, oh my god, I'm actually buying a house, and I could like set up a whole like crazy home, um, smart home
System.
systems throughout the house to basically like any place I want to turn the lights off or on or start music or turn on a TV or turn on a video game system or turn on my computer from downstairs or change the temperature. Like that sounds like it would be really cool, especially with all the new tech coming out. But there is kind of this is actually like a little bit off topic, but this is something I saw on
Every day.
Smarter Every Day, and it's a YouTube channel. And on the YouTube channel, this guy named Destin basically found out that you can actually use a laser to
Send a signal.
create a sound signal.
Hmm. Well, so from my understanding is the laser, like the way it vibrates the microphone, the way the microphones are designed
Right.
in these smart speakers, the laser vibrates it in such a way that it is like sending a voice signal, a sound signal to it,
Mhm.
and activating it as if it's a voice.
Yeah, and it basically has to like point directly onto the microphone, and it can completely silently send voice messages to your smart home devices. So it could like, let's say you had a device that allowed you to open and close your front door, like I said before. Somebody might be able to go and through your window, like shine the laser directly at your, if you had like a Google Home, like the tablet. What is that one called?
Not the hub. I don't know what that one was called.
But yeah, like the hub thing with the screen. There's like these little tiny microphones on the front of the screen. And if you can get the laser on that, you can actually have it, open up that front door.
Yeah.
Um, of course, this was actually something. It ended up getting patched. I think they actually talked about at the end of the
Really.
video that like Google found out about this, and like these companies, a lot of them found out about this. Apple had a few defense mechanisms itself where it would essentially require you to put in your passcode before it would do certain functions.
Wait, that's on the phone. Like,
Yeah,
and that's that. I mean, that's true for for a lot of things. Even Google has that too. Like you have to lock and unlock it in order to use it, or if it's your specific voice. So if you train
Yeah.
your assistant to
Siri.
have your voice, Siri, Google has the same thing. You can train them to understand that it's only you, then it would work.
And then the other thing too is especially with smartphones, because smartphones can obviously be affected as well. The camera or the microphones end up being too small and too deep. And then something actually I found out when I was looking into the information on the microphone was actually that in smartphones they're offset to the side, and there's like a little like kind of area, like a plate that covers them. So if you accidentally put your like let's say like a little pin into that instead of the SIM card hole, it won't damage the microphone.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's like really difficult to do it on a smartphone.
Yeah. Well, definitely the Smart Everyday, the video is like definitely a good PSA on like it was effectively saying keep all your devices out from view and like of windows and such, that somebody can't access them that way. That's like the easiest way to prevent it, at least at this point.
Right. So it's not like a huge hole of insecurity, but I thought it was just kind of a fun thing to mention, because it shows that, you know, when these products hit consumer shelves, they're not foolproof. Like they're not really tested for every type of way to break into them. Even especially in this case, it wasn't even like they chose to ignore that there was an oversight. It was that there was just no way they could know that shining a laser at a microscope, a laser as a microphone, is going to somehow cause it to work like a voice.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, that's just a personal thing. That's why, like, I don't know if I'm paranoid enough, but definitely don't connect my smart stuff to locks and such like that.
Yeah.
There's voice assisted. Like, fingerprints, maybe. Like, definitely codes is the best way to go. Any sort of putting in a code. But
even then, though, at some point, like, with hardware getting smaller and more powerful, like, maybe somebody could brute force a code, like, locally.
Yeah, I mean, codes can be brute force, and, like, passcodes, and, like, fingerprints are harder unless they get your fingerprint. But, like, forget about face. I would never use my face to unlock anything. I'm just, like, that type of person.
What's the difference between your face and your thumbprint?
Your face is more easily accessible to other people than your thumbprint is.
But
I mean, that's my different. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like,
every single like iPhone will not open to a picture of you.
Yeah, I know. But when we're gonna be able to create models of our faces that are like so good,
I guess if somebody can just take like a video of you, but right now it requires like a really, really like long scan of the face of like with the device, and it's not even that high fidelity, and it wouldn't get past a.
I just think that
camera.
it's high. There's a higher chance of the ability of unlocking faces. What happened before unlocking fingerprints?
Maybe
that's what
I guess there's a complexity to a fingerprint that's a little bit more demanding for a computer to try to figure out.
And smaller. Like you can't recreating a fingerprint. And you have to it's like a small scale, like lines and stuff. That's why. Oh, it's just like a personal thing.
I mean, maybe you're right, but
maybe it's dumb.
Maybe it can tell. Because it's like you can't even even if you could make a perfect model, an animated version of a person, you'd still have to put it on a screen and then hold a screen up to another camera, and it would know because it would reflect light off that off that screen. You know what I mean? It's like you lose the translation is not a proper version. You'd almost have to like have the computer look at I guess like the 3D model and animated like simulation of what it would look like in front of the camera. I don't even know. Does that make any sense?
Sort of. I don't know. All I'm saying is I think we're closer to unlocking with somebody else's face than fingerprint. And that's just a personal paranoia thing. We
definitely have to look into that now.
Yeah.
But I've personally always seen the face as being at least the most convenient and also being very difficult to hack.
I don't know. I've been able to like grab my cousin, his wife's phone, go up to her face and unlock it and just walk away and just be like, fine. Like, yeah, that can like be stopped right away. Like you can grab a phone or whatever, and like, but like you can just do that. Like that's the thing. Like here, like just look at your phone. They don't. By the time they know whose phone that's in their front of them, it's
If
too
I
late.
kill somebody, can I still use their face to unlock their phone?
Do their eyes have to be open?
I don't know.
And
I'm
like
curious now.
like smiley complexion. Like does it have to be
Do
warm?
they have to like move a little bit?
Do
Like,
they have to be warm?
is there like an infrared? Yeah, it's like measuring how hot you are.
Well, I feel like the complexion changes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I bet you at some point they may actually do like an infrared camera to like measure your heat signature so that you can't be dead and also unlock the phone. Because that would be like an easy way to fix that.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
All right, but I think we're kind of off topic right now.
a little bit. Another thing, just to keep moving along, is Alienware has stolen the Switch and coming out with the UFO.
Yeah.
It's literally just a PC that's a Switch, and it doesn't have a dock. So it's not actually the Switch part of the Switch. It's the
doesn't mean that we can't
3DS
have
half
a
of the
dock.
Switch.
Doesn't mean that we can't have a dock.
I don't know if they're gonna add a dock. They
I
could.
don't know that they're not.
The
I'm
thing is I
hopeful,
don't.
but-
It didn't look like they designed the.
But we don't need
template
it. You know why
to
we don't
do
need a
that.
dock? Because we have cloud save. And I don't need a dock when I have cloud save. And I can log into my Steam or any games that are on my PC.
Yep.
Or whatever Xbox games, Microsoft crap that you have. You can log in and have the same game save as you have on your Alienware as you do on your PC in your accounts. So you don't need a dock. You can just pull it up on your TV.
If it had like an
your
HDMI
PC.
like little connection or something, that would basically be a dock.
Yes.
But I guess the one thing the dock does do that this wouldn't do is it adds like additional like processing power. And
the actual dock doesn't. No, it's all on the.
I thought it runs better on the TV than it does on the actual device.
Dude, when you plug the Switch in on the dock, it's just HDMI. It's just plugging your HDMI into the dock and then plugging the Switch, sitting it on there, and the plug just goes up top. It's no different than plugging HDMI into the Switch.
I mean, I just remember like when they were marketing it, they had mentioned that it ran better on the dock than it did when you took it out. And there was going to be a slight FPS drop when it was out of the dock.
Maybe processing wise in it, but it doesn't make the dock better. The thing, it's just the device itself that can send it to the port. Probably that sends it outwards.
But I don't think the UFO is really. It's not really competing with the Switch anyway. Because
how not?
It may seem like it's competing with the Switch, but it's not, because I'm not getting the same product.
I guess you're filling a market that's not really there.
Right, because it's Windows. It's a Windows tablet with controllers on the side and a built-in interface for video games.
So it's filling the vacuum of like the PS Vita, what they have.
Right.
And those games.
And it's also, I mean, it is a tablet at the same time, because it's a Windows device.
Yeah.
And I think you can still like search the internet, and you can still do like watch videos and go on YouTube and Netflix. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's essentially just like a Windows computer with some controllers, and it makes it portable. And it's actually really cool. I think that you can find somebody who owns a Switch and a UFO, and they probably like both. Because like you can't get
only
Nintendo
like
games on the UFO,
right? But if like if right now your only mobile gaming is a Switch and you want it because you want to play the Witcher or Doom or any other game that you can get anywhere else, now this is competing with those people. So I imagine the Venn diagram is very heavily like overlapped of people that want both, and then very small on the only Nintendo and only non-Nintendo games.
Yeah.
So that market that they're capturing is a small, very small portion of the Nintendo Switch, but it's a large portion of people that aren't on any mobile gaming.
Well, I think the Nintendo Switch is a little bit more casual than the PC community specifically. I guess it also the console community kind of comes in here too.
Yeah, but any person who plays a mobile game do you think that's still more of a casual player?
That's true too. Yeah. So casual, I mean, being mobile is being not specifically casual. You're more likely to be a casual player if you prefer mobile. If you prefer to play on like on your couch with your Switch, it probably means that you're not playing FPSs competitively. Probably means that you're not playing any games competitively because anybody who's sitting at a desk is going to have a slight advantage. So players who like to have that advantage.
Yeah, we could play League on the Alienware.
That'd be weird.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so I think it's a bit more of the PC market who wants to like try a mobile device that does the same thing.
Yeah.
But the Nintendo market, like they're pretty tight knit. Like they're pretty casual. They're that's definitely not going to be as interesting to them. I know, like my girlfriend who loves Nintendo and has a Switch would never buy this probably.
Yeah, I'm like I know. Like Marlon was looking for like mobile gaming since the Vita was kind of dead, and this he probably. I'm not gonna speak for him, but that's something. This is probably more up his alley than like, getting a Switch. And like even for me, I'd be like, if I can have my cloud saves and play like whatever RPG I'm playing.
Right, you don't even have to buy games because you already own the games.
Exactly. That's the main thing. You're just buying this, and then you can play games that you already own.
This thing makes no money though off of.
Sales?
Off of sales of games, though. So that'll be interesting if that'll impact
that's
them.
confirmed? Or are you just saying that based on, like...
Well, if I can sign into my Steam and I already have an entire library of 200 games, and I can continue to buy them on Steam, I can't imagine that somehow Alienware would get a percentage of that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe this is like a hardware only.
They could make a deal, or they could have their own store and games like that.
I think I remember they had their own interface for like going between your different places of your games.
No, they had like
and a store itself.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll also have a store, but they still allow you to buy on your platform of choice. Because I remember seeing a Steam.
I think it's advantageous for them to allow you to use your Steam so that it gets you to buy this.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're not going to be like, oh, if you get this nice.
They don't want to be Google Stadia, is what you're saying.
Yeah. That's the other thing this kind of could compete with maybe a little bit, but I think this has an advantage definitely.
Yeah.
This is like concept, so they don't like it is a concept, I guess. It's like not
out yet,
confirmed like release or anything like that.
And they're not even sure if they're going to do it at all. Isn't that what they said? Like
basically it's a concept, so
it's like a true just kind of concept stage. It's based off the Switch for sure.
Oh yeah,
it's definitely been inspired.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is going to be we wanted to talk about the Samsung Neon AI.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the biggest buzzes out of the CES. A lot of people are talking about the Neon AI, and we've had an interesting experience.
Oh, in our research, definitely.
Yeah. So we did not. Well,
I guess like our initial like learning of this was sort of like excitement, right? Yeah. So we learned that like Samsung's coming out with this AI. It's gonna be like a personality. You're gonna talk to it. It's like whole person that can like walk and move on the screen and whatever. So it's very.
It's like a living
exciting.
Chatbot.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and thinking about like the possibilities when we can use. And as we further try to figure out, what did they show us, and when's the release? Like, do they know what they're gonna do with it, and like actually what the actual purpose of it? We kind of got in the nitty gritty of like what they actually showed people at CES and where the stages are.
Like we wanted to see exactly how this thing worked.
Yeah.
And how detailed it was and how advanced it was. And the whole reason we went into it was like we wanted to talk about how cool it is to you guys.
Yeah.
So we thought we were going to be like wowed based off of all the media coverage. Talking about how like scary it is and it's like unnerving.
Yeah, Uncanny Valley.
And that it's going to be like replacing humans and like, is this ethical or not? And there's all this like, it's very dramatic. So we found a video by Neon, the company, or I guess not the company, but like the team that's in charge of the project.
Right, and we saw the demo video that they released.
And it was a cool video, and it was very obvious as a software developer, probably like a team lead of some sort, standing in front of an audience of journalists.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they're all like, you know, taking pictures and holding up like cameras and stuff and like, you know, trying to record everything he's saying. And, you know, he goes over the fact that...
Well, the first thing that he says is that they started 4 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is... We're looking at the very, 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 very bare bones beginning of this project. So it's fascinating that they even revealed it. And I think that was like the initial part was just like, why are they releasing this so soon? And you know, the media coverage did not mention 4 months.
Right.
Not a single article that I saw, that I read, none of, even like the videos that I watched did not mention that only 4 months ago did this project start. And then they used a very specific word too. They said front end. I guess not words, 2 words, but it's I guess like one concept. But like I'm a bit on like the technical side, and I work in IT, and I have a computer science degree, and front end is an interesting word for a AI project, let's say. Not the right word when I think of
hear.
Yeah. So it turns out that this is really, really, really early.
Right. So the guy even said that this was front end, and they went through the demo, and then he goes, later the year they have like this doesn't have any storage or any memory, so there's no like bank of, I guess, information that you can gain or talk to this with. That's coming later in the year.
And they asked it like a few questions, and you know, in one video it answered them, but it kind of answered them, you know, weird, and it was very creepy. It was very like, it stood completely still. It was like a 3D model of a woman, and the 3D model didn't even look great. And then when it did talk, the mouth, the animation was like, didn't even look really that good. The teeth were not great, and if anybody plays a lot of video games and knows about 3D modeling in video games, teeth are the hardest thing to pull off well. But even then, you know, like, you'd think Samsung doing this project would have more, I think, advanced looking 3D models, because that's not even the hard part for an AI. Like, you can make beautiful 3D models. Like, the gaming industry has been making phenomenal looking 3D models for a while now. And these things look like they're from like 2014 or 2015.
Yeah, and like the other half of the demo was them just tapping through emotes that they had, smiling, a few different smiles,
like, surprised.
Yeah. And like,
or like doing a pose for a picture, or like doing a few preset voice like lines that were pre-recorded.
And the title of the video was their demo of Core R3. And when you think of that, you think of like, oh, they're going to show us what this AI is capable of. Meanwhile, further investigation, when I was on their site, basically tells us that Core R3 has to do with latency of the like emotions and the movements and the reactions.
Wait, in R3, what is it? It's real...
Oh, I have it here. Reality, real-time responsive.
Okay, so basically it's that it responds to your commands or your stimulus in real time with low latency.
Right.
Which is literally just means I press a button on my tablet for you to smile, and it takes a short amount of time for you to smile. Yeah. Also known as every emote like wheel in every video game ever. Since like fucking WoW, or even earlier, probably like back at the beginning of MMOs. It's like, it kind of ended up, we ended up realizing it's a bit of a farce. It's a bit of a lie. There's nothing. They've done nothing. There's no AI. It's when they say front end, it's UI, it's UX. It's the app on their phone that they're using to control it and make it do the different motions and moves. It's the animations that were created by the animators. It's the 3D models that were made. I mean, even the interfaces on these big, like, flat screen TVs that they used looked terrible. Like, they were very weird looking, and the AI, the animations were okay, but they weren't like some mind blowing, ridiculous change. And then the funniest part too was the people in the video.
They must have been like 40, 50 years old at least, you know.
Like, the more we kind of realize like how nobody who is actually a developer or like a person who has any true understanding of what AI is would actually think that this is an AI, because it's not. There was no AI really done at this point. There was like some basic, like it was able to answer like just kind of questions, like really basic questions with like not great answers, not like really detailed answers, but it was kind of, I guess they were kind of about their personality.
Yeah, I think like this kind of, I don't know if this is really telling of CES in general, but like it's very journalist and reporter centered, because everybody's showing off their new tech, their concepts, so they want it on every single article everywhere. And then you even have like tech reviewers talking about this stuff. So like, does this like expose these people as like not as knowledgeable if they're just seeing this? Like, yeah, you can excuse it as concepts, but when it's something that we're saying it can like be life changing and replace people in all these different
4
positions,
months in.
yeah, you can't like expect us to actually believe this. Like, I don't know, maybe they were just like, we were talking, maybe they wanted to come out with this because they didn't want to come out next year with it, because maybe they'll make progress and release some more during the year, and then by next year Amazon might have something or somebody else might have something.
I'm not against this idea, but I don't know how much I can trust Samsung. But this almost feels like, it's not like an early access video game because you're not able to play it and you're not buying into it, but it's like almost like a Kickstarter where the person kickstarting it is some big company. Because at least like in a Kickstarter, they kind of show you step by step, like, oh, we're going to do this first, oh, we're going to do this next. And the funniest part too with a Kickstarter, and why this feels like a Kickstarter, is that they start with the marketing. They start with the front end. They make it pretty. And then they sell it to you. They sell it to you, and they sell it to you, and they tell you about this concept that's going to change the world, that's going to do this and do that. Meanwhile, they haven't written a line of code for what they're trying to say. Like, they literally said they don't have back end done. This was a front end. This is it. It was just 3D models doing animations and poses that were directed from a tablet.
Yeah,
and they could answer some basic questions.
In further inspection, as far as like media coverage, like the video we saw and their Twitter account is like so low, like nobody's seeing it.
It was like 2,000 views on that video.
Yeah, there's like 700 people subscribed to their channel, which that doesn't really say too much, but like it means people cared or not. And then their Twitter had like 11K followers, and when I looked on Samsung's actual account and like Samsung Electronics looked around any previous tweets and I like searched for any sort of neon or any reference, absolutely nothing. They didn't want any video really to be seen of this to what it like looked like.
It was only CES.
Demo. Yeah.
So CES, because what I mean, part of what CES is you need a pass. You need a press pass, right? So it's like an E3. You know, only insiders are going to it. People who are part of these journalistic companies that are gonna do, you know, pieces on all the different technology coming out. You know, they don't really need to know how it works. They just need to know how many screens it has and how many times it can fold, and you know, how many controllers it has and all this cool stuff like that. But it doesn't really need to. They don't really need to know how the actual software works. So it almost seems like Samsung knew that if they did not promote it at all and just let journalists promote it off of CES, then they can get positive hype without anyone actually seeing the fact that it's not even remotely been worked on yet. It's been worked on for 4 months, and only the front end is done, and the front end looks bad.
Yeah.
Like,
damn.
It's a nothing project, and it may end up being nothing.
Right. Or it can be something. And that's the problem, I guess. Because if you go in, like we can criticize the crap out of it,
Mm-hmm.
but if they have potential, there's no reason to come out like this and just like not really have anything. I think it can diminish a lot of excitement and hype and any sort of, I don't know, what would be progress, I guess. Because we
Mm-hmm.
just like shit on it and be like, nah, it's nothing. It's like, then there's no investment and nobody's going to adopt. They're not going to do anything. Unless they try to prove us wrong, which I guess they can do that with criticism. It's just investors care about what people say. And other companies care
Mm-hmm.
what people say.
I'm just like, I think investors, this is good for investors too. This is good for like their stock value probably went up off of this as well.
Right. What I'm saying is if it was bad press.
Right.
So
It was
if,
good
if
press.
people see what we're like revealing,
Mhm.
basically, then that's not good.
Right. And then I guess that could stifle the project entirely, and then it doesn't
Mhm.
even get created, and then it's like, it just becomes a what if.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I don't fully like not want to, like, you kind of have to expose this stuff.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Because if you don't, then you continue to let the corporate machine like just market something to you without providing a product and hope you buy it. Like in the old days when, like, if you wanted to buy a video game or you wanted to go see a movie, you didn't have this giant robust network of information to find out, which friends went to see it and what it's got rated on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb and Metacritic, and
Yeah.
you
just
had to
think-
just watch the marketing and go in.
Well, I think that's changed, right? And I think especially because we don't have a product yet, and they're just 4 months in, and they're gonna show us more. So if we see more, it becomes promising. That's kind of okay.
Yeah.
To just like, and also they're spending their own money. If they tank, that's it. Screw them. We didn't pay into it. Nobody bought anything.
Yeah, it's
right?
just Samsung.
They
They got enough money.
Right, they put their money in, and they the project got shit on, and then they canceled it. Whatever. Like they screwed up.
I don't think they're going to cancel it, but I do think that they got the wrong people to do front end. I think they should have gotten video game developers to make front end. I think they should have hired an actual
or like anybody that did any modeling for any movie, like CG,
exactly,
or any modeling for video games of like that, for like modeling for putting a person in mocap, any sort of mocap situations.
It definitely seems like they just got some modelers who've like done some things and like it just didn't look great. It didn't look professional front end. It looked like very, I mean, I guess you could say though it's like alpha. It's like alpha.
Yeah.
Maybe in 5 years this stuff might actually be worth looking at, but it definitely seems still quite a bit far off. Maybe even less than that. It could be like 2 years, 3 years. But it's definitely.
I'd be more hyped. So I like backend's obviously where we need it, but why can't it's also more exciting to be like, oh, we're unveiling these 5 personalities at CES. There's no body, there's no image, there's no nothing, but you can tell this one's like bubbly, blah blah blah, and this one's like and like if they showed that AI that was developed there, you'd be like, okay, now we can put it into a physical form next.
That's why I think it's like it was marketing jargon and mumbo jumbo and bullshit.
Yeah.
It's part of their this particular AI and how they're separating it from Amazon Alexa and Google Home, and Bixby and stuff. The main reason they're differentiating it is because it looks like a human.
Yeah.
And they actually have to, when you think about the demand between just making a voice that does what you say, that's entirely just the AI. And having the voice come out, which is they've already got. They can make any Alexa say anything. So it's just whether or not it answers correctly and intelligently. But when you add the whole 3D model and the physical gestures and everything like that, like you just made your entire life 10 times more difficult.
Oh yeah.
Like you have to be able to make it so that you either have to create literal thousands of animations, like for every different type of situation, and they have to pull it from like a database of the animations, or you're going to have to basically create a machine learning system that will be able to learn human like body language and then replicate it based off of emotion, and then the emotions would have to then also be machine learned. And then also all the facial expressions and tone, and holy crap, like you've made it so much more difficult.
Yeah.
So the only way to sell it, I guess, is to make a pretty looking 3D model that doesn't even like isn't even as good as the very first model of Amazon Alexa.
Yeah.
And I guess you can just make sure nobody knows about it, and you can get tons of good press.
Yeah.
But does that mean it's going to be a viable product? Like, seems like Amazon and Google are going to be like 100 times ahead on their AI side. Especially with what's that thing, Google Assistant, that you like can call a doctor and make an appointment.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's out yet, but yeah, it's based. I don't know what they called it, but
that's better than this.
Yeah. Look, I just hope that it develops into something actually what they're talking about. And if not, I hope somebody else comes along and actually makes it. So.
Yeah, I feel like Google's just gonna Google and Amazon are gonna come in, and Samsung's gonna be only 2 years in, and they're gonna be like, hey, you know that neon thing that's still in progress? We already made it. Here you go. Because they don't want everyone to see that they're only 4 months in and they haven't done that good of a job.
Yeah.
It doesn't bode well for their image. They only want to come out with stuff that works.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much the main things that we took away from CES.
Yeah.
Let us know what you guys think about neon and all the new tech, and some people don't really like all the extra screens.
Yeah, or folding screens.
But yeah, have a great week.
As always, thank you for listening and following.
Check us out every Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are available.
You can find us on Instagram at Unstoppable Force Podcast and Twitter at UForcePod for news and updates.
We'll see you guys next week. And until then, stay unstoppable.